of the many things that a parent of a child with autism has to face is to help and encourage the other adults in their child's life to understand what an autism diagnosis actually means and how everyone can pull together to support and to help not just the child but the whole family. A lot of autism symptoms can look like bad behaviour, and it's so easy for other people to judge. But the child is not being naughty. In most cases, what looks like bad behaviour is actually a child who is in extreme distress, doing everything they can to protect themselves from what feels like severe emotional or physical pain. Additionally, one of the symptoms of autism is difficulty in communicating. And since all behaviour is actually a form of communication, sometimes the only way they can tell us something that's very important is by displaying a particular behaviour. Now, there are dozens of different symptoms of autism, and because every single child has a different selection of these symptoms, and also all of the symptoms can have different levels of severity, it's very unlikely that anyone will ever have met two children whose autism affects them in exactly the same way. Also, the most visible symptoms often aren't the ones that are used to diagnose autism anyway. The symptoms that are most obvious are often strategies that the child is using to try and avoid triggers that will cause deep distress, or using other strategies that will minimise the pain once something has already happened that's making them feel very unsafe and insecure in their own environment. Of all the many possible symptoms that there are, the ones that clinicians are looking for to make a diagnosis will be in three very specific areas of behaviour, and they call these three areas the triad of impairments. Unless a clinician can very clearly see that a child has at least one symptom in each one of all of these three areas, they cannot be certain that a child actually has autism. What they're looking for are clear signs that a child will have an impairment in social communication, firstly. Now, that can mean things like not understanding the give and take of normal conversation, so that a child may ask the same question over and over again, or they may dominate a conversation and only be able to talk about a particular intense interest of their own. It might mean that a child simply isn't that interested in communicating at all, or perhaps only communicates when they really need something for themselves. Sometimes children with autism are completely nonverbal and simply unable to speak at all. Next, a clinician will be looking for symptoms concerned with rigid thinking and a lack of a social imagination. Now, what that might mean is a child who is unable to see somebody else's point of view, or one who takes everything very literally. It can also mean that a child has great difficulty coping with changes in routine, or that they play in a very fixed and unusual way. Lastly, to be diagnosed with autism, a child has to have at least one symptom in the area of social interaction. That means that they may find it very difficult to make or to keep friendships. They may touch people inappropriately or stand too close to them. It can also mean that they don't understand non-verbal communication, things like facial expressions, body language, or hand gestures. And often they find eye contact extremely difficult. To them, it's so intense that it actually feels painful. There are lots of other conditions that can look like autism, things like ADHD, sensory processing disorder, or obsessive compulsive disorder. Sometimes children have autism as well as one or even more than one of these other conditions. Getting the right diagnosis means that the child can be properly supported to grow, to develop, and to learn in a way that's right for them, and to get help to make sense of the world around them, which otherwise can often seem very frightening and confusing. However, what all our children need most of all is love, understanding, and an acceptance of who they are rather than who we'd like them to be. We need to be able to give them ongoing support so that they learn to shine in their very own individual way. Now, that's exactly the same for every child, whether there's an autism diagnosis or not. Thank you.